week of May 28th, 2023. This is going to take us all the way through to the full moon on Saturday, June 3rd, 2023. So we're getting out of May and getting into June, which always feels a little surprising. Where's the springtime going, I say? So a couple of things about this week. One, Mercury finally gets out of the shadow of his retrograde on Wednesday. Now, he's been in the shadow of his retrograde since the station on May 14th. And since the station, or maybe the day or two afterwards, we wouldn't expect there to be any new mercurial problems coming up. But things that did go wrong during the retrograde or even before the retrograde as he was moving into his shadow, or as he was moving through the shadow before the retrograde. You should watch the video on Mercury retrograde if this isn't all crystal clear to you. After the station to go direct, he still has to clear out of the territory that he retrograded over, and that happens on Wednesday the 31st. So what we're looking at is any lingering problems from the retrograde that started on April 20th, or actually even some things that may have started beforehand. There's a good chance that they can get cleared up now. Okay, so we're going back to early April, all kinds of technology things and contract stuff and all of that sort of stuff very likely can get cleared up this week. Wouldn't expect any new problems. Feel free to go buy a car or a computer or whatever. But if you ordered the car and you haven't received it yet, if you bought the computer and you didn't get it or it wasn't working, now we can kind of hope for things to work out. If not, maybe you have to wait till the next retrograde. Now, we have one tense aspect this week. It's a good week. We wax towards that full moon in Sagittarius. It should be a pretty good week all in all. We do have one little hiccup, but it happens right away on Sunday, and that is the Sun square to Saturn. Now, Sun-Saturn squares are not a lot of fun. There's always a sense of testing and limitation there, as the solar principle of joy and meaning and vitality is hemmed in a bit by the Saturnian principles of reality. The half-empty glass of Saturn hits the enthusiasm of the Sun. I was trying to think about what would be a good analogy for this. Somehow or another, I started to think about, like, when I was a kid, we would try to do something like my friends and I were going to build a tree house, and we would plan it all out. We'd probably draw pictures, making like little blueprints and all of that. And we would have all these ideas about all the things we were going to do in it. And then we'd go to the parents, and the parents would start talking about, the wood, how much is that going to cost, where you're going to get it. And, that tree isn't really all that sturdy. And, oh, by the way, well, what about that go-kart you were going to build last week? You never really got beyond taking the wheels off your sister's bicycle. That's still sitting there. They could be real downers sometimes, couldn't they? But, as with Saturn, they were kind of had a point with this stuff. That sort of the vitality, the enthusiasm gets damped down by Saturn. So Saturn-Sun squares are really, they're not ego-enhancing. Let's put it that way. Now, those of you watching on Saturday, May 27th, may be feeling this more, or in the early hours of Sunday, you might be feeling this more than you will even as we move past Sunday. There's really nothing that stirs this aspect up. Even the moon, by the time the moon gets into a sign that would stir things up, this aspect is going to be long past and the sun will have moved on. So this is pretty much a quick one-off. It is, I said, every week in May has one tense aspect, and this is ours, and it gets over with rather quickly, and it shouldn't be such a big deal, particularly because the sun is in mutable Gemini and Saturn is, trying to paddle along out there in Pisces. And it's not quite as harsh as it might be if they were in fixed signs or cardinal signs even. This is a little bit more of a kind of indecision leads to problems. This would be more like, you're deciding with your friends, should we build a go-kart or should we build a tree house? And, we can't really come to a decision. And then when we finally come to the decision, the parents aren't even around to ask about it. I was thinking about my homespun little stories here are great, huh? a few years ago on the 4th of July. So we decided, are we going to, well, we were deciding, are we going to go out someplace or are we going to stay in for the afternoon? We're going to sit in the backyard type of thing, or are we going to go out to, go out to a bar restaurant type of thing? We just couldn't decide. A good part of the afternoon went by as everyone chimed in and came. And we decided that we were going to go out, and we all piled into the car and got to the place that we had decided upon, and it was closed for the 4th of July. And it turns out every place was closed for the 4th of July. That's not a bad little analogy. I mean, I know in the US it's Memorial Day this weekend, but you get the idea here. It's, what are we going to do? We're not quite sure. It might, instead of being blocks and limitations and being tested, as Sun Saturn aspects always, because those Sun Saturn aspects aren't testing you. They're asking you, do you really want to build a tree house? Are you really willing to do things? How much effort are you willing to put in? And the solar principle, if it's strong, it won't be damped down by Saturn for long. I mean, Saturn's light is itself just a reflection of the sun's, right? So the solar light can prevail in any contest with Saturn, but just bring enthusiasm. So it may not be quite such a testing kind of aspect this time, though. It might just be difficult to gain traction. Right? This is more what we're looking at. This is more like we're going to go out, stay, and we can't decide, and then we're not sure how things work out, and so on. So that's Sunday. After that, the moon waxes. It waxes through Libra at the beginning part of the week, which should be really good. And then Wednesday in the evening goes into Scorpio. Now, the Scorpio moon, an almost full Scorpio moon, we might think there's a lot of emotional volatility in the air or something like that. But the truth of the matter is the moon is going to be trying to Saturn in Pisces, and then go on to be trying to Neptune in Pisces. And by Friday evening, the moon in Scorpio will knit together a grand trine between Neptune in Pisces and Venus, who's at the very last degrees of Cancer. It actually should be pretty good. It's an almost full moon, and we have this nice grand trine. It really speaks of, I mean, that Venus-Neptune square trine, which is exact on Friday evening. I mean, that really is a nice aspect in and of itself. Venus is in Cancer, where she's very happy. Neptune is in his own sign of Pisces, which is Venus's favorite sign. And, even the Scorpio moon, which is not thrilled, Venus is thrilled with Scorpio either, it's getting nice support. So I would say that it's a nice time to go out and have some fun, connect with folks and all. I would guess, sometimes I'll say, this day of the weekend is the better, this night is the better night. And I don't think we have that this weekend. I think this coming weekend, June 2nd and 3rd, and 4th for that matter, we're looking at really good days all in all. Friday might be better to do like a sort of date night kind of thing, and Saturday more like a group activity. But it's too close to call. It's too close to call. So it's a good energy, good feel, and I think that we'll really have an enjoyable time at the full moon. It is the Sagittarius full moon. It's a fire sign. It connects with Mars, who's in, it's a little past Mars in Leo. But, it does connect with Mars in Leo. It brings out some of that Leonine energy. It really should be a pretty good weekend. So I think that this week, is one of the smoother weeks astrologically. Of course, how it hits your chart personally is a different story. How it hits the chart of countries and the country's leaders and so on is a whole different story. We're only talking about the overall collective vibe here. It's not like people can't screw it up. They certainly can. But, the stars aren't really prompting us to with any particular problems as a group. So enjoy this week, make the most of it. And if you've watched all the way out to the end of this video, I should point out that on Saturday, May 27th at 11:30 a.m. Eastern Time, and this time I'll let you just figure out what time that is for you. 11:30 a.m. Eastern time, I will do a half an hour live hangout, and we can talk about whatever you like to talk about. And we can maybe review some of the aspects that were hot in this month of May. And then next week, watch for the June forecast coming out on Wednesday, the 31st. And if you subscribe, you don't, and hit the little bell, you don't even have to watch for it. YouTube will tell you about it. So do those things. I'd like to see you on Saturday if you're available, and if this is not in the past, if you can travel back from the future into the past, that would be really cool. But if you can't, well, that's all right too. Anyways, I will see you soon.